Good morning. How is everybody this morning? It is Tuesday and we are live for our weekly training. And of course, just as I was about to hit the go live button, I started to sneeze. So we'll just see what happens. I apologize in advance. Okay. But I just fill up my water, so I will be drinking most likely lots. Welcome to Tuesday morning's live training. This morning, we are going to be talking about your story, your brand. And we've talked about over the last several weeks topics that touched on your story, your brand. We've touched on some marketing. We've touched on messaging and looking outside of the box. It kind of looked inside the box last week, and we kind of dove in a bit deeper. This week, I wanted to kind of take you on a little bit of a journey around the content that you're creating. Like last week, we kind of dove into the 3 pieces. Like we kind of did a pretty deep dive about that. So this week, we really want to just talk about how you're going to create the content. Like we're going to back up a little bit. We're going to kind of come at it from, not the 30,000 foot level, but we're really going to, take it out of the microscopic like we did last week and start getting you guys to think about the bigger picture and how it impacts what you're creating. And so I'm just going to double check. Good morning, Teresa. I see you. Okay, I just want to make sure that, because I've got my phone for the comments all lined up, so we should be good. For those that are new to the group, welcome. I'm Karen Kleinwort, and I host these every Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern. And if you can't make it, you can always watch the replay. I pinned the last 2 trainings, so last week and the week before, at the top under the featured section. And then the rest are in the guides, or they can be found over on the Women's Business Resource Community under the replay vault in the library. And so you can watch those anytime and keep replaying them. And so my goal with this group and these Tuesday morning trainings is really to pick a topic that's been discussed, not just in our group, but in other groups that I belong to, and just in general, a feel from my clients and from others that I've spoken to, what might be important to them or what they're struggling with. And, one of the things that kind of really came up is just this idea of, and I'm seeing it a lot lately, is making faceless reels, faceless content. And it's really playing into that idea of, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want my face out there. I just want to create something. Good morning, Nicole. I just want to create something and not have to have my face associated with it. I just want to create it on, Canva or Adobe and just put it out there. And AI really is kind of kicking things into high gear for us. And so my goal with these trainings is really to kind of pick topics that are near and dear to what you guys want to talk about and learn about, and things that I think that are also important or that might be driving the industry or driving where we're heading. And so I come with over 18 years experience of coaching small businesses and startups. And I come from a corporate background as well as a personal training background. So I have that whole mind, body, spirit integration piece. I look at things as a whole, which is why the first of the 3 strategies we're going to talk about is humanizing your content, right? You want to humanize your business for the content. So you're going to basically make this connection with people, right? Because when we're talking about social media or any type of marketing, even if you're off of social media, you need to make a connection. You need to make your brand real, right? It's not just like this, especially today's market, right? We know AI is driving a lot of content. So we want to humanize it. And that's what we're going to talk about first. The second thing we're going to talk about is, how do you sell yourself apart? What is unique? AK, what's your unique selling proposition? You're going to see those acronyms, the USP, right? So we're going to talk about that. And then the last one is building trust. We are going to look at, yes, we talk about audience all the time. You can likely go back through 90% of my trainings there will be one element where we talk about your audience. We talk about who your perfect client is. Why? Because it is so important to everything that you do when it comes to putting your brand out there, your product, your services, no matter what it is. Who your audience is one of the key pieces to creating a strong brand and just carrying your story, right? So you want to be talking to the right people. If you're not talking to the right people, then it's just going to fall flat. Okay, that's who we are. Good morning, Sue. All right, so right now, for those that are tuning in, if you're here live, great. If you're watching the replay, just let me know. Just, put a hashtag replay. And then if you have questions as we go along, post them. I'm watching it on my phone for the comments so I can kind of make sure that I'm addressing those or answering them or bringing them up. Because you guys end up having some really great questions and insight that everybody can learn from. So if we dive in, I want you to think about what your brand is. What does your brand represent? Who is your market? Who is it that you're talking to? Remember, I apologize in the beginning. I didn't take an allergy pill this morning, so I think I'm going to pay for that. So when you're talking about your brand, what's the story you're telling? Right? A couple of trainings ago, we were talking about, the content beyond the story. And then the week before that, we actually talked about your story. Now we want to humanize it. And I know there's a big push right now, faceless content, where you can just show your product. You can just show kind of you working without having to show your face, right? And part of that comes back down to our confidence and being present and forward facing for people to see us. We have to be ready to be seen in order for people to see us. So when you're talking about your brand, you need to humanize it. That's what we're talking about. We're bringing the human element into it. And why is the humanizing of your story, of your business, of your brand, of your message, why is humanizing it so important? Why do you think people need to see the human side of you and your business? Good morning, Michelle. What do you guys think? Why do you think that's important? So one of the reasons, and I've mentioned it a couple of times, right? AI, so many things can be done with AI. Consumers, we are all questioning. Good morning, Taya. We are all questioning the reality. We are questioning, how authentic is this? Is this legit? Is this like just some rando, or who is this? What's the story with this? We always want to know, what's the story? Right? And as consumers, we get inundated with marketing, with advertisements. I mean, like, I don't know, like when if I'm doom scrolling, I'm like everybody, right? Like I'll get into that doom scrolling period. And like 3/4 of it is ads. Somebody's sponsored, somebody's boosted, something, right? But I don't stop at them. And that's obviously for whatever reason. But my question always is this legit? Right? Is this a legit brand? Is this a legit ad? Who is this that is representing the brand? And is it too good to be true? Consumers, we are craving people to be authentic within their business, within their marketing. They want to see us. And I'm right there with you. When I first started doing these trainings a year ago, June, I did not want to do them. I was deathly afraid to put my face out there. I did not want to do it. I was like, no way, I don't need to do it. I can just do everything faceless. I don't have to put my face on everything. I don't have to be the brand. And what I was doing is I was I was being really inauthentic in the end because I wasn't really putting my mouth where my money is, as they say, right? Because I kept saying, this is me, but yet I wasn't in it. I wasn't present. And so I really had to step into a state of confidence and really be humble about, good morning, Caitlin, that maybe it doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe I don't have to be perfect. That's the part of being a human. I'm not perfect. My content doesn't have to be perfect. These trainings are not going to be perfect. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's 11:11. I love that energy. So, right. And as I'm saying this, the city came and tore up our sidewalk. Here's a side note. They tore up our sidewalk this morning because they had to replace it. Well, good morning, Caitlin. And the plumber that has to fix something underneath, he's texting me going, I'm going to be stopping by soon. I'm like, after 12? He's like, no. And I'm like, oh, great. So be prepared, everybody, that my 4-legged doorbell may go flipping crazy because they think it's okay to, anyways. So we'll see. Cross our fingers, they don't have to come to the door. I've told them about the live training, so hopefully they won't come to the door, right? But this is me being imperfect. This is me humanizing my brand, that this is life as a business owner, that crap happens. And if it was faceless, you wouldn't get this side of me. You wouldn't understand that, yes, like you, we are all juggling multiple things, right? And so what's my story and how am I sharing it? How am I sharing my journey? Me explaining the plumber coming in the middle of my training, even though I asked him not to, is part of my journey. It's part of my story. It's part of me walking my walk and saying, this is how we do things. This is how we manage in our business the unexpected, right? So like all this was supposed to actually happen yesterday for us, not today. But guess what happened? They had equipment breakdown, so they couldn't do it. Which, you know, again, for them as a small business owner really sucks, right? They didn't want to have a piece of their big equipment break. So humanizing your business means embracing all of it. Consumers, we as individuals want to see you. I want to know who Sue is. I want to know who Taya and Caitlin is. I want to know who they are as part of their brand, as part of when they make their products, how they make their products, right? What are their services? What are they bringing to the table as individuals? So when you're thinking of your brand and creating that content and you're sharing your story, what's the human element in your brand? Right? Over on the women's business community, it's really about bringing us together to connect and allowing us to be in a safe space to be authentic. So that way we can be confident and we can brainstorm and come up with solutions and go, okay, so I can put that out there, right? So I had a client who is wanting to do more YouTube, but she really didn't want to do the video training. And that's okay too. But guess what? Her first video was like 37 seconds long and it was perfect. It was perfect. That's all she needed to do because it breaks the mold. It breaks our thinking that we can't do something or we're afraid, right? So humanizing your brand, what does that mean for you? Take a minute and think about if you're going to create a piece of content. So those of you that are making products, you can do kind of behind the scenes. And most of that can be, you know, is faceless, right? Because if you're making t-shirts or candles or do-it-yourself kits of, you know, whatever, then what does that look like, right? It's not about you, it's about the product. For service-based industries, it's about us, right? We are service-based, so it's about us. And we're the face. Product, it's more your product is the face of your brand, but you are the story behind the product. So your consumers, your customers want to see you too. So if I asked you a question, I'd love an answer. The question is, what inspired you? I want you to think about your brand. I want you to think about your story, the journey so far, even if it's just an idea of a business and you haven't even launched it, you're just thinking about it. What inspired you to take the step to start it? What was that trigger? Who wants to share? Anybody? That's okay if you don't. You don't have to share. Right? So, what inspired you? So, if I roll back the clock 18 years ago, when I started my company, coaching and consulting, my LLC is under the name Therapy and Transition. So what inspired me was my dog Tito, therapyandtransition.org. His name, his acronym, he was going through bone cancer and treatments for that. And so I worked with the Portland Medically Fragile Center for Children to create a pet therapy program. And so Tito was able to visit the hospital once the program was before he passed away. That is what inspired me to start my business. Nothing to do with what I do now, but at the time it was, I had this vision in my car, Tito's in the back, right? And we're heading to people who are medically fragile and are not able to leave their homes to do craniosacral and Reiki therapies, healing sessions on them. That was where I started. It completely grew from there, but that was the beginning of my story. And since then, we morphed, and what I realized, it was more of a grieving process, right? So therapy and transition started from a place where I could heal, I could pass on. I mean, Tito was an amazing dog, right? So for him to be able to go, he was like this big lab pit bull dog, 100 pounds, and that's what he wanted. He was so gentle, unless he was protecting me. That was another story for a run. He was always on guard, but so that's part of my story. So my inspiration was dealing with my grief of watching my dog pass, right? So how do we get inspired to start creating? What inspired you? So think of your very first product, or the very first service, or the very first service or product you want to start creating. What's that inspiration? Because that's the beginning of your story. And we talked before about, our stories can start and get triggered really early on, and we don't realize it till later in life. But when you're talking about your business and sharing your story, you want to share that journey, the ups and downs, right? Like I had to restart my business 4 times. Once back in 2006 when I actually started it. The second time after I had my son Caden. Third time after I had my daughter Phoebe. And then the 4th time when we moved here to Michigan. And I went through these transitions, right? So my journey is this up and down, start, stop. But with each new beginning, I became more clear about who I wanted to serve, who I wanted to work with, and how I wanted to work with them, right? So knowing that's part of, and it hasn't all been rainbows for me. It's been challenging. Like my very first website was kind of like, it was before Facebook, and it was a community center, just kind of like what I have now. And it basically got held hostage, and I didn't want to pay the ransom. And so I lost my whole custom made website. So, and then I went into grief mode again. So thinking about your story and sharing pieces of it, how do you share it? How do you build the story to bring people along? That's the part of humanizing your business. And part of this, if you want to think about, how do I create content and humanize and share this story. But we aren't all wordsmith. And this is where AI is really helpful, because you can start to create prompts around, I want to create content around my story and really humanize it for my customers. My perfect client or my avatar is XYZ. This is, in 5 or 6 sentences, my story. What kind of content can I create with it? What kind of static posts? What kind of reels? What kind of stories? What kind of carousels, right? And you can work with that to get kind of to trigger your thought process around what do you want to share and how do you want to share it. So humanizing your business is super important, because it allows people to connect with you authentically. And that's what we're all craving, right? So I want you to really think about that question: what inspired you? Because if it inspired you to begin something and to start something, then I will guarantee that that inspiration is what is going to have you in alignment with who your perfect client is. So, and that blends right into the next strategy, which is really, right, figuring out what is setting you apart from other people. So what is your unique selling position? What makes you different? What makes your product different? And so I'm going to I'll use the candle making business as an example, only because I know there's likely 4 or 5 different candle makers in our group for sure. And you all make amazing products. And they're all slightly different. But yet they're all candles. And so, and I know I'm not the only coach in this group. I know I'm not the only one that works with marketing and business and strategizing. So what is unique about me? What is unique about how you make your candles or your products? And you only know that by kind of looking at how others do it, but also knowing what your story and what inspired you. So when you're trying to set yourself apart, you're really wanting to invite your audience on the journey with you. So what does that look and feel like? What's the most powerful tool you have? You. Which is why Faceless works to a certain degree, but without you, you and your products don't exist. Your services don't exist. So putting yourself out there, setting yourself apart, figuring out that unique proposition is so important. Good morning, Becky. Right? So what's unique about you? Think about what inspired you. That was the first question for the first strategy, right? When you're humanizing your business, what inspired you? To set yourself apart as a second strategy, that unique selling proposition, lean into that inspiration and what you bring different to the table. Because I can guarantee you that if we had every single one of us that is a business coach or some sort of coach sitting at a table, and we shared what we did and did our kind of like 30-second elevator speech, there would be something different in each one of our statements. The themes might be similar, but there will be a unique piece to each everyone. Why is there that unique piece? Because we are humanizing our brand. We are unique, and we are leaning into our story and what inspired us to create and start what we do. So when we know what makes us unique. So for me, when I first started business coaching, I spent likely 90 to 95% of my time educating people about what holistic coaching is, because I integrated Reiki, craniosacral, and the coaching into each of the sessions. So we were always working with the mind, body, spirit. And it kind of looked like this. We would meet for 15, 20 minutes. That would be the coaching piece. Then we'd have like a 45, 50-minute craniosacral combined Reiki session. And then we'd have another 15 to 20, maybe 30 minutes of coaching afterwards. And it was kind of like the sandwich method. What we would learn and uncover and heal during the body session, we could then begin to apply in the strategies and goal settings afterwards. I spent tons of time educating people because that was what was unique about it. Now, my holistic coaching sessions look very similar, slightly different, but very similar still, right? Even those that don't do the holistic, they still get that mind body, because I can't take that out of who I am. That is what's unique about me, right? I can't take that piece away from me. So it just looks different when I implement it without the body work specifically. So look at yourselves, your inspiration, because think about what my inspirational story was to start back in 2006 and how that is still integrated 18 years later, right? The key also, as we move through and we bring them along on this journey, we want to remind them. We want to consistently remind them what is unique. What sets us apart? What makes our product that much better? So, first question you want to think about, what inspired you? Now I want you to think about, how is that the powerful tool that sets you apart? How are you going to adjust the verbiage to make that statement of impact for people to be able to say, oh, I like that. I want to go deeper with that person. Because remember, the whole thing is, in order for somebody to work with us or buy our product, we're talking about that process of they need to like us, right? They have to know us first, like us, and then trust us. And they trust us. They begin the trust journey by the humanizing piece. Good morning, Missy. Right? So when we humanize our content, when we put ourselves out there, they start to know us. They like us, or maybe they don't like us, but they still get to know us, right? Maybe they don't like the quirky personality that some of us have. I try and rein it in when I do my lives, right? So, but they get to know you, they get to like you, and they begin to build the trust because they begin to know what your powerful tool is, that superpower you have that sets you apart, because it's part of that inspiration that you had to begin with. Good morning, Sue. Right? So you want to make sure that you keep leaning into that element of inspiration. Bring it forward so that way you can consistently remind them of your story and how it impacted you and how it's going to impact them. Right? So that consistency, that leads us right into the third strategy, which is the building of the trust with your audience, right? And we just said, why is it important? We already know why it's important, right? Because, well, if they like us and they trust us, they're going to want to work with us or buy our products. So thinking about that, thinking about your audience, the best way to know your audience is by what? What do you think the first thing you can do to get to know who your audience is? If you've not done a deep dive into creating an avatar for your business, she's out of school. It's excited. Roxy, you're fine. Lay down. Mm-hmm. So think about, what can you be doing to know your audience that if you have not done a deep dive into creating an avatar. Okay, here it is. I want you to look in the mirror. You are your absolutely perfect client. Your inspirational story, whatever inspired you to do what you're doing. Okay. Sorry, my dog. I think she's gonna like knock everything over in a minute. She's trying to get the squirrel outside the door. Okay, sorry, that was a distraction, but I just saw everything kind of behind me wobble. Oh, that's why it's not a squirrel, it's a chippy, like literally in the flower pot outside the window. That's why she's going crazy. Great. Okay, let's hope she doesn't knock everything over. Okay, so looking in the mirror, you are your perfect avatar. Dogs, they're such great distractions, right? So you're your perfect avatar because it's your inspirational story, right? That triggered you to create your product. Yeah, exactly, Becky. I mean, like seriously, like, so if you hear a big crash, you know what's going on. If I lose connection, you know what's going on. So think about that inspiration. If it inspired you, it will inspire others, right? When you understand that this is your superpower, that this is your moment to say, this is who I am, this is my company, this is my business, this is my product, my services, etc. And I'm sharing my story through this amazing content, people connect with that. And you begin to start to see your clients in yourself, right? You begin to see the customers who buy your products in yourself. And I actually read, there's, can't think of her name out there, but there's a social media person I follow, and her content this morning was basically, you know, about small audiences and how to grow your content if you're small. And, oh, I should have put her in a crate because she's really distracting me. Oh, okay, good, she got by. Oh my God, now I lost my train of thought. Okay, so I'll have to think about it for a second, but it's about knowing your audience and no, you're fine. Sit down, go lay down. Yeah, because with that, sorry, this is really distracting. It must be really frustrating for you guys, so I apologize. Because now you totally lost my train of thought. Okay, so she was in her content. It was really simple. And it literally was her holding a cup of coffee with the text over top, right? So it wasn't really, it wasn't anything extravagant, but it caught my attention because it was literally like a 5-second, you know, reel or story that had her on this, you know, back and like it was the same movement because it was on autopilot, like auto repeat. So, but it wasn't AI generated. And I've known her now for a year, right? Like I've been looking at her content and it made me stop and want to read it because I'm like, oh, small audience, that's me. I don't have a huge audience. I don't have a huge following on Instagram or Facebook, and that's okay. But so it was really her saying about how it's about being authentic, about bringing your story forward. And I thought, oh, how interesting. Like this is what we're doing. So I'm going to take a screenshot of her image and I will post it in the comments when we're done because she's an amazing person to follow. And now it's going to drive me crazy. I can't think of it. I can see her. Tara, her first name is Tara. That's it. So it's just really interesting because you're starting to see all of these larger individuals who have, you know, big followings kind of redirect back down to that authentic, not faceless, with themselves front and center, right? So when we know our audience, when we see ourselves in our audience, then we know the brand is on mark because that's who we are asking to come forward, right? We are ourselves. So engagement and consistency, we talk about those two as well, right? Building an audience, building trust with that audience really means, how do we engage with them? How are we talking with them? And again, we're not talking to them, we're talking with them. It's two-way. Just like this morning, this is a two-way conversation, right? So I'm asking questions to elicit for you guys to respond and to think about. Whether you actually comment or not, it doesn't matter. I'd love to see you guys comment and share what inspired you and what you think is your superpower when it comes to that inspirational piece and that unique selling proposition. I'd love for you guys to share that, but I'm okay that you don't. Because some of these questions are not like a yes or no question. Oh, me, simple responses. They require some thought and reflection. And that's part of my intention too with these trainings, is for you guys to have the time and space to reflect and to think about things, because it means tomorrow it's going to make a change. It's going to impact your decision tomorrow when you're going to be able to create content. Or say you don't start creating content until, say, Monday's your content creation day. So now you're going to think next Monday, what did Karen say in the training? What was that post that she shared? Right? And then you'll start to implement change at that point, because we get to process it then. So what inspired you? So this is your homework for this week. What inspired you? Really dig into what was that inspirational moment. And then how is that now your superpower, that unique selling proposition? And we've talked about in other trainings, what it means to do a market research, where you kind of dive into 4 or 5 other companies or small businesses that do what you do, or sell what you sell, or make what you make, to get an understanding of how they do their own marketing, to see how you see yourself reflected in that. That's part of understanding your unique selling proposition. Know what sets you apart, and then really consistently remind them. So what inspired you? How does that set you apart? And then how are you going to engage with your audience to really bring it home, that humanizing of your story and your brand with your audience? So what questions do you guys have? Comments, thoughts, feedback? She's still looking at, she's sitting at the door waiting for, she's gonna have to wait. So no questions? Okay. Sometimes there's a delay from when it goes from Zoom into the Facebook Live. So beautiful. All right. So while you're thinking about what inspired you and how that is your unique selling proposition, and how is that going to lead you into a higher engagement with your audience, we are creating a small business directory over on the Women's Business Resource Community. And I'd hope to have the registration open by today. There's a glitch in the technology piece, so I'm working with the developer to figure out the solution. So I hope in the next couple of days. So watch for that. I will drop the link in here for you guys to register into the small business directory. It will be a searchable directory. If you are already a member over in the Women's Business Resource Community, you can update your profile. I've got all the new fields in there already, so you can go back in, log in, and update your profile, and you'll automatically populate the directory with your information. So if you're already a member, you're already part of the directory. It's kind of in draft form right now, but you can still see it. And if you haven't uploaded a photo, right now it's going to be set as the default funky avatar. So for those that are members, go over, log in, update your profile and update your image. Okay. There should be a place at the bottom for you to add an image to be added into the directory, and it doesn't have to be the same as your avatar. Okay, so that's that. And we are working on Black Friday specials. I'm super excited about that. Kind of those are the two things that I wanted to mention. And if we don't have any questions, I'm so grateful that you guys were here. Thank you for putting up with Roxy's antics. And I'm so grateful she didn't knock everything over, because we go wobble over there for a minute. And I will see you guys next Tuesday morning. If you have any topics you want me to talk about, if you have any questions, lean into the group, send me a DM, ask away. We are here to support you. I am here to support you all. And I appreciate you tuning in this morning. So you guys have a beautiful day, and I will see you next Tuesday. You're welcome, Becky. Thank you.